Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metza. We have a great guest on tonight. If you've been listening to the last several shows, I've been trying to shed some light on what's been going on surrounding the protests and the tragic murder of George Floyd. A few weeks ago, we had Andy Mannix on, the investigative reporter for the Star Tribune. The week after that, Monty Butte, a professor at Metropolitan State University, who is also one of the leaders in the anti-war movement at the University of Minnesota in the early 1970s. Last week, we had Mr. Aaron Dixon on, one of the founders of the Seattle Panther Party. This week, we have a great guest on who happens to be a friend of mine. Tony Zaccardi is a very well-known bass player and musician around town. He also owns Palmer's Bar, one of the oldest saloons in Minneapolis on the West Bank. And lo and behold, a few weeks ago when we were all watching the news, Tony ends up on CNN in an interview with John King. We're going to play a little bit of that and then talk to Tony personally.
My next guest owns a bar in Minneapolis, and in an effort to stave off violent protesters, you see it right there, put up a sign that read Black-Owned Business. Tony Zaccardi is the owner of Palmer's Bar, and he joins me right now. Tony, thank you for joining with us. So you decided to do this hoping that the people protesting in the street would not hurt your business. What has it been like in the community these past terrible days?
I'll tell you, that was a last-minute effort, a last-minute idea. Just after I bored him, I'm just going to spray that on there just to see. We're definitely on edge. I mean, I'm fortunate. I'm, about a mile and a half from kind of where this all started, from the 3rd Precinct, in a very diverse, very kind of hot neighborhood. It's mostly black-owned and Somali Muslim-owned businesses over here. And, I kind of thought that I just paint a big target on the side of my building after, it kind of came out that there was some of the white supremacists and stuff in town, and, kind of had me worried. And so we've been watching every night. Our community's been watching me and these businesses down here.
Tony Zaccardi, thanks so much for taking time to speak with us on the Wall of Power Radio Hour tonight. That must have blew your mind to be on CNN as much as it blew the rest of our minds.
I tell you, it was quickly just how it all started. It was I posted a photo of the covered up the Palmer statue, the classic statue at the end of my bar with that sign, and I shared it on Facebook. Please, Minneapolis, take care of my baby. Didn't think anything more of it. It got shared a billion times, and the next morning there's an email from Newsweek. So we'd like to speak with you and run an essay piece. I'm like, freak, what? Did that. It was amazing and cool, whatever, and they posted it that night. And then the next morning, CNN said we'd like to get live on the air with John King, blah, 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 whatever. It was like around lunchtime, noon, somewhere in there. And we did that. And it was like, it came down. I just did it at the bar. And, I was a little nervous, but not as nervous just because I've experience on stage and,
sure, and
whatever. But thankfully, I was staring at my computer, and I couldn't see his face, only hear the audio. So I couldn't see him while I was, so it kind of made it a little easier. But it was great to talk to him, and a friend of Pat Dwyer, who was kind of my mentor in the bar scene, a friend of his works for, was a speechwriter for Obama, and works doing kind of the job. He preps corporate people for big TV interviews.
Huh.
Don't fall into this question. Don't fall. And his buddy watched it. Chris, I forget his name. Chris. Anyways, he said I did a great job because they asked a couple questions where it could have been leading me into get him to say something,
right,
risque, and I didn't do it. And but then then CNBC. I was on 2 days later CNBC on the Squawk Box, and then a follow up with Newsweek as well. And holy cow!
No,
I mean I was like, how is this happening?
Well, you really handled yourself well. And, of course, any friend of Pat Dwyer's is a friend of mine and a friend of yours. So how did Palmer's hold up? Did you have any problems over there?
Thank God, no, we did not. We came out just fine. I tell you, during those few days, though, because I went down there that Thursday after the very first kind of the looting happened. I went down to the 3rd Precinct area and just saw, these buildings before they ended up burning the next night. Minority-owned business, da-da-da, and that's why I decided to do that. But so I came down. The only damage on the West Bank, besides the pawn shop burning to the ground, over at down by the Joint Caboose, the Midwest Mountaineering was broken into that first night and had knives and axes, tactical knives and axes stolen.
Wow.
But aside from that, so then what happened is the kids from the Hard Times, Midwest Mountain, but the people, men and women from the Hard Times, Midwest Mountaineering. They're on the roof of KFAI, and we had a group of Somali youth by the old 400 bar. They were standing there ready to go, armed, with sticks and whatever. Not going to happen in our neighborhood. I was getting bold. Like, I'm going to sit on my roof and I'm going to watch guard over my bar. And then every night around curfew time, I chickened out. Just like I got just with heavy artillery, thought of Molotov cocktails. I was like, you know what? This building is amazing. It's incredible, but it's not worth dying for. So what I would do is each night, Lisa Hammer, who I bought the bar from, her and I and a couple of us, I started grabbing, articles of just important things, the big rainbow sign, the Colonel glove poster, my abstract.
Right.
So grabbing stuff like that and bringing it home and then just sitting there going, is this the last time I'm ever going to be in this building? Just kind of having a moment to myself. And then I went to my comfy little apartment 5 minutes away and watched a little live chat feed we had in the neighborhood. And, I got the night I got most scared is the night when that truck happened on the bridge on 35.
Yes.
And just, there were so many people there. But it was a group of peaceful protesters, thankfully. And some of my staff was on that bridge when that happened.
Well, it's funny what a small world it is. And I think, and we'll talk about it, we've got Tony Zaccardi on for the whole show tonight. We'll talk about how the community really stepped up in all the different neighborhoods around the Twin Cities. But speaking of small world, Stan Kipper, who you might know, great drummer, his son Miles was the kid that helped the driver of that truck on the bridge, protected him until he could get him into the safety of the cops. Because from what I know, I think the guy just there was a ramp open, he got on it, was in the wrong place at the wrong time. So between Miles being interviewed on some of those major news stations and you, I feel really connected to the national media now through you guys.
Use me for anything. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Tony, and I want to talk about it later, but so people know, Palmer's Bar, located in the historic West Bank district, is only about a mile from the 3rd precinct where the cop shop burnt down.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now,
sorry, what?
Now, do those cops then, do they patrol your neighborhood, or is that a different precinct?
No, I'm part of 1st precinct.
Okay.
So we're downtown Minneapolis. As far as police are concerned, we're downtown Minneapolis.
Okay.
But that also means they're much, in general, they're busier downtown Minneapolis. So the response time to Cedar Riverside is sometimes slower than we want it to be.
Yeah, right. So when did you bought the bar? Just within the last couple of years, right, Tony?
Yeah, May 17th of 2018.
Wow.
So I had my 2-year anniversary. We were closed, of course, and it was pretty emotional. Like, oh my God, it's 2 years of me owning Palmer's, and then I had a little tear in the morning at my house.
Well,
but it's just over 2 years, and it's weird. This whole thing has been obviously for everybody. We're all going through this together. For me personally, for Palmer's, this is the biggest blessing anyone could ever ask for. Because I got it was 2 years of my head at my butt trying to figure out how to run this bar and learning everything, and having now this break of just a reset, and having gotten the money from the loans and this and that, the grants. Like, I've got actually money that no one's ever had Palmer's has had to do the things that needed to be done, and so got a couple of surprises lined up for when folks walk back in the bar.
Well, that's so fantastic, and I see you're auctioning off some of the ceiling tiles. Mm-hmm. Put my name on one. I certainly want one. And before it's all, I've spent so much time at Palmer's in the West Bank because I played there for years. And before I started to play in town in '78, I spent a lot of time at the 400. We ping pong between the 400 and Palmer's. In fact, back when Cats Under the Stars used to play as the trio every Tuesday night for 4 years at the 400 bar, we'd occasionally, after several whiskey cloudies, grab the tip jar and walk up to Palmer's and walk it around for tips. And we'd make it all the way around the home bar. Somebody goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, we're getting money for the band at the 400, then we take off."
run back down. Yeah, that's incredible.
We got Tony Zaccardi on, owner of Palmer's, a great bass player. We're going to hear a track called "I Am the Ghost" by his band Eleganza. Be back with Tony for the whole show tonight on the Wall of Power Radio Hour.
Let's go.
Welcome back to the second set of the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metza. My guest for the whole show tonight is a fellow by the name of Tony Zaccardi, very well-respected bass player in town, plays with a handful of the best bands in town. I met him when he was bartending at my favorite watering hole, Grumpy's Northeast, on the corner of 4th Street and 22nd. And I'd like to put in a good a word for Pat and Eric and Annie and the gang over there. They've got a great patio open and socially distanced, and it's one of the hippest bars in town. But that's where I met my guest, Tony Zaccardi. Tony, when did you start bartending for Pat over there?
I started working for Pat Dwyer in June of 2000. I actually sold pull tabs there for about a year prior.
Really?
And worked upstairs at they had that record label, Amphetamine Reptiles. So I interned up there, sold pull tabs on the weekends, and my roommate was a bartender, and so I started out quick. I did swamping, so I'd get up there early in the morning, clean the bar, and my roommate would sit there and wait while I watched me work my butt off, and then he'd open the bar and make all the money as a bartender. And then he moved on, and I got that shift, and I worked there full time for probably about 12 years or something after that. But I've worked there since the late 90s, and I would never have left in a million years if I didn't have this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You know, a friend of mine was like, hey, I think she wants to sell Palmer's. I'm like, ha, ha, ha. Then I was like, wait a minute. No one will ever, I had $300 in the bank. It wasn't
right.
You know, I wasn't looking for this opportunity. But one of my good customers is a head of lending for a company called Mita. And what they do is they help people that look like me, they help minorities with funding to start small businesses. He's like, Tony, do it. I'll help you do it. We're going to do this.
That's fantastic.
9 weeks, Aaron Newman told me about Palmer's for sale. 9 weeks from the day he said it's for sale, it was May 7th, I signed my life away. That 9 weeks later, got a loan for commercial real estate. We bought the building, got a liquor license, you know, and all the research. And it was the worst 9 weeks of my life. Absolutely.
I bet.
But I didn't even believe it when we were in the signing, doing all the signing at closing. You know, she's like, the one woman was, you can open that champagne now. Like, what? It's done? And then of course, I had to cry.
Sure.
And then I reached my phone to call my mom, who's been dead since 2011. But I was like, so I called my aunt.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
and then it was all downhill for a while from there.
Well, like I tell people, I said, all male musicians are mama's boys, right?
Yep.
You always think of your mama even when they passed on in the great beyond, when those beautiful moments happen in your life. I love the story, Tony, because you really ground floor. You started out in the basement, and you swamped the place. You carried the booze. You carried, anybody.
Bathrooms.
Yeah, well, and anybody that's worked in a bar, which I have, both bartended in swamp bars and played in bars, but back when I was bartending, people don't realize how many cases of beer you have to go up and down those stairs, and they're all rickety.
Well, in that day, too, back in those days, it was still returnable bottles.
Right.
So they're heavier to carry, a case or two at a time, but then we returned all the bottles, so they go down a beer chute, and they sit on a bucket at the bottom of this kind of shelf rack thing that kept them from breaking, and resort all the returnables into cases. Stack them. It was just, so that's how the day started.
Right.
Through the toilets, and so yeah, no, I've done it all there is to do in a bar until I got to own one, and then I thought I knew everything, and it's like, nope. Until you're sitting, in the office, looking at the bank account, looking at the bills, and looking at now I fully understood with everything. I understood Pat Dwyer, everything I questioned, all of that, and in 1 week I was like, oh, okay, that kind of thing where you kind of bite your finger, going, oh, I see, okay, that explains it all. So I got it right away. That's why we didn't do this that week. That's why we had T-shirts for a month.
Right.
And so, but it's been, in a place like Palmer's, especially, like this bar it's not my bar. I'm its current babysitter, but it's everyone owns it. It's everybody's bar, and so anything you do, people are mad at me for taking credit cards.
Right.
It's easier, But I will give you a call. Nobody knows this except for a handful of people around me right now. So this is, I promise you, this is no one knows this yet.
Okay.
But both bathrooms are completely different looking than the last time we were in there. The women's room is almost done. We're gutting the men's room today. That's part of why I'm taking my time to open. Brand new, fresh, brand new bathrooms. And,
that's fantastic.
Everyone that's walked in and saw it is just like, Lisa Hammer cried tears of joy. So they're going to smell a lot better.
I have a few stories about that men's room at Palmer's that I can't repeat on the air, but I'll tell you the next time I bump into you. When do you think you're going to open, Tony Zaccardi?
I've kind of got targeted date of July 1st.
Okay.
Thereabouts on my
bingo
radar.
card.
And the other big thing is the ceiling is coming down. So we're going back to the original 10. And that's not going to prevent us from opening. It's kind of a project, and I don't know. I'm going to kind of probably leave it rough like it is above the piano where that part is already exposed. Mm-hmm. But I want to do what I really want to do is, I want to allow my staff to continue making the money they're making on unemployment. So I'm not trying to push anyone back to work right away.
Right.
Because this is a chance of, people are paying out their credit card bills and da-da-da. I'm enjoying it too.
Yeah.
It took me 6 weeks. It took me 6 weeks to get unemployment. So it was pretty brutal. It was a very rough time for me.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure we have a proper plan in place for distancing. I mean, I'm going to be strict because I've been to bars here in the last week, not loving what I'm seeing at most places.
Yeah.
And I want to be the opposite. I want to be that place where you go and go, cool, yeah, we had a great time, and I felt safe as hell. Let's go back to Palmer's. That was it was handled well. Just because you see places that it's just like it's Friday night in there, like no difference. Some of the bars we run into each other at, and so I think I just want people to realize this is, we're here. You can come have drinks here, but it's going to be, you come in, I don't even want to open inside yet,
Yeah.
Come in, use the bathroom, go out the other door to the bath to go back up to the patio, that kind of thing.
What is your capacity with the social distancing on the patio?
On the patio, I don't have a capacity, actually, but it's a huge patio, and I'm adding on another deck to an area, the back half of the patio. It's just always been a dirt pile back there. It's about 10 by 40. It's about 400 square foot that I'm going to have decking back there. So we'll have plenty of room. I mean, it's because I think now it's not the 50 people that it was initially. So we'll be able to see 75 people or so at a time. If I thinking it right, I haven't measured everything yet, but it's 2,700 square foot patio. So there's room.
Tony Zaccardi, owner of Palmer's and great bass player, I've told you this several times since you bought the bar, and I'm just going to put this little bug in your ear.
No, you were on my list of people to call. I already know what you're going to say.
That chilled mug of Grain Belt that I pull out, I'd have a little brandy on the side. That was my Palmer's Nirvana moment. We got Tony Zaccardi on, owner of Palmer's, great bass player and great community member. We're going to have him on for 2 more sets on the Wall of Power Radio Hour. We're going to listen to a tune called Lost in the Cosmos by Romantica. We'll be right back.
Do you ever feel lost in the cosmos? Do you listen to stars? 'Cause it feels like home. It feels like home. Do you want to go out in the moonlight? sit under the starlight. Call me up and let me know. Call me up and let me know. If you see the light arise like a fountain in my eyes. If you see the light arise like a fountain in my eyes, let me know. Do you ever wake up in the midnight? Think about your life, wonder what you're dying here for, dying here for. Glitter through your knees, but soon the spring will be blowing easy. So please don't settle, promise me you won't settle. Whatever you do, don't settle, please don't settle, if it isn't in the heart of you. Is it good, is it beautiful, is it true? Was it made to be meaningful? Does it flow like a river from the soul in you? Is it good? Is it beautiful? Is it true?
Welcome back to the third set of the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metza. We just heard a tune by songwriter Ben Kyle called Don't Settle, featuring bass player Tony Zaccardi, who happens to be our special guest tonight on the show. Tony, so we were talking about the history, your 2-year history owning Palmer's Bar. I have to ask you one more question. When did Palmer's actually open? How? It's got to be at least 100 years old, right?
Palmer's opened as a bar in 1906.
Wow.
So 114 years we've been serving alcohol in this chunk of land. The building was built in 1886, and it's pretty amazing. And there's a lot of lost history, of course. But it's been fun. Because of those TV appearances, I've had family of previous owners have reached out over the last week or two, and I've actually heard from the granddaughter of, I believe it would be Henry Palmer, who named it Palmer's in 1950 or thereabouts.
Fantastic.
And she said he wants to send you a piece of mail. So I'm eagerly checking the mailbox for that to see what, he's still alive? I didn't know that.
Wow.
I had met her in person before. And then the ownership after that, I heard a few stories and got a handful of photos sent to me that no one's ever seen before, kind of showing a little bit of the interior of the bar and the two owners having a drink together and have a blast in the 60s or whatever. So it's great to, because there's just so much history that we're trying to uncover. And Lisa is now spending time in the beginning stages of writing a book about Palmer's and some of the stories and crazy, weird traditions and characters that have made this place what it is.
That's so incredible. And it kind of leads into this next subject that I want to talk about, how in spite of all the darkness that, of course, was the murder of George Floyd and the burning of all those buildings, I just read a couple of days ago in the Star Tribune, they figured there's about, between Minneapolis and St. Paul, over $300 million in damages to business and buildings. But we've also seen, Tony, as you spoke about your neighborhood on the West Bank, Cedar Riverside, coming out to protect those buildings, sometimes just with sticks and stones. I've seen my friends that live in South Minneapolis. I live in Northeast. Neighborhood watch groups going out to watch their neighborhood. We've seen a lot of goodness come out of this whole 3-4 weeks of darkness as well. Don't you agree?
Oh, 100%. And I said in the Newsweek interview, the follow-up one I did, I can't believe this quote came out of my mouth because what? But I said, Ewan, I said, we're seeing the best of people in the worst of times. And I read that. I wrote that. I said, but we really are. And the analogy I used was like, I said, I've got friends that play in hardcore punk rock bands and hip hop. It's like, hey man, I got a pickup truck and $100. Where can I bring some sheetrock
nice.
or plywood or that kind of thing? And so we're just seeing that with everybody. We're seeing, Harmar is doing a lot of stuff on social media. Like, here, let's throw some love and money this way. Let's throw donations this way. I have friends that just, you know what? I've got extra money right now from the stimulus stuff. Like, I'm going to spend $300. Where should I spend it? And that's just been amazing to see. And that was kind of my message on my TV interview. It's like, we're really seeing Minneapolis like proud, Minneapolis strong. And
you know what?
It's just been really nice.
And you mentioned my neighbor, Harmar Superstar, who you play with, and I just wrote down that line: "Best of people are the worst of people, and the best of people and the worst of
Best
times."
people, you got it.
I got to write that down because I think you, me, and Harmar have to write that tune.
Oh,
Don't you think?
Noted. Sure, Zach.
So no, it's been incredible. I moved to Minneapolis in '78. Spent a lot of time in South Minneapolis, and then a lot of time on the West Bank playing and drinking and hanging out and meeting people, going to shows. Moved out to New York when I moved back and ended up back at Northeast. I was really reminded when the city started to come around, and especially after we got through, and even during the curfew and what we came around, I was reminded, Tony, about how much I love this city and why I love this city.
It's great. There's just people, and again, Minneapolis is a proud city, and we, there's a lot that's in we're all in different places and do lots of different things, but, don't mess with us kind of a feel, and it's true. And I love what people are doing with their time and how they can volunteer and help. And even that next morning, people were out with garbage bags right at Lake and Hiawatha cleaning up, and store owners and the storefronts. And then, of course, it went to heck after that. But it's been that way for a long time. There's isolation in some areas, of course, but I think, no, you don't mess with us. And I love that about our town. And, Cedar Riverside is the same way, as crazy as it is, but Northeast, South. I've never spent a lot of time hanging in Uptown, but of course I've been going there my whole life. It's, I'm happy to be here. He asked me at the end of one of the interviews, like, are you thinking of boarding up and moving? I'm like, nope, I'm going to live here my whole life. It's my city, and it's my place.
Yeah, true. Like Sister Sledge sang, we are family.
Yep.
Now, Tony, where did you come from? Are you a Twin Cities guy, a Minnesota guy?
Yeah, born and raised. In fact, my grandfather, he's full-blooded. His parents came over on the boat from Sicily.
Okay.
A lot of Cumberland, and he grew up in Cumberland, Wisconsin. But I was born in Columbia Heights, Fridley. My whole family's from there. And he was a bartender at the old Pine Tavern in the 40s, which I believe is now Eli's East.
Okay. Really?
And my uncle John owned a bar in Columbia Heights when I was a kid. My grandpa's father, I found this out just a year or two ago. My great-grandfather was a swamper at the Spring Inn over now the Spring Street.
No kidding.
Died of a heart attack in the basement. Anyway, pretty wild. So this is in Northeast is, and my grandma was Southeast Minneapolis, which is where I live now. This is my born and raised here. I spent some time in the suburbs, Brooklyn Park, junior high years, but came right back to Northeast once I turned 21. So.
That's fantastic. Yeah. My grandfather, Emil Metza, owned the Roosevelt Bar in Virginia, Minnesota in the 40s, 50s, and into the early 60s, and lived above the bar. My grandma ran a 16-room rooming house. It's where my dad grew up. There's a lot to be said to have some bar owners in the family. It kind of gives you a realistic view of what's really going on in the world, because saloons and bars, that's where, I really think they're the great place where people can go and relax and socialize and get away from whatever the hell is bothering them.
Well, absolutely. That is just like you could have, happy hour is a real thing. You get done working, just want to sit down and have a pint, people, your bar friends, and this and that, and chat about, you can have fun little dumb conversations and the meaningful conversations, of course. But then you just meet such a wide variety of people, especially as a bartender.
Yes.
Like, I know a master carpenter, I know an electrician, I know a guy who owns a car dealership, And that's what I mean, just from meeting, if you're a good person, you're going to have a great time just getting to know your community. And that's what I love.
And Palmer's especially, if you, like I said, I had my first beer there in 1978. you can still go there and see some of the same people that were there in 1978, including America's greatest folk singer, Spider John Kerner.
Yeah, I saw him yesterday. He's anxiously waiting at the bar. But it's funny. I see him so much that I just don't even think about it anymore.
Right.
There are people that would love to meet him, and I'm just like, oh, see you tomorrow, whatever. But yeah, he's here twice a day. Up until this happened, he was getting his New York Times delivered here. But he lets us know when he's going on vacation or out of town, just so we don't have to worry. Yeah, truthfully, but every day. In the morning, he's got his one spot, does a crossword. But he's such a great guy. He's so humble. He's just like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think
but a brilliant guy.
He's brilliant.
I remember of one of the greatest Zen-like lines that was ever uttered to me by a musician in the Twin Cities in the last 40 years was Spider John Kerner. I had his record Spider Blues. I used to listen to him up on the Iron Range. And I came down and you could actually meet Dave Ray. You could meet Tony Glover. You could meet John Kerner. At least stand next to him and while you're having a cocktail. And I remember I saw Kerner and I finally, at Palmer's, and I finally got up the courage and I walked up and I said, "Hey, John, can I buy you a beer and a bump?" And he said, "For sure." And I introduced myself. And I said, "John," and I was referencing that great record he did, Run and Jump and Standing Still with Willie Murphy. And I said, "John," I said, "would you ever consider playing with a band again?" And he said, well, he pauses for just a minute, like the great guru that he is. And then he says, "Anybody can play with me," he says, "but I can't play with anybody else."
It's a great line. Yeah.
And I was kind of like, okay, I will now go to the mountain and contemplate that. Great guru. So, Tony, are you going to be able to have some music at some point? I know you had the great Palm Fest, or they had it for years, Lisa and the gang at Palmer's. So when do you expect live music coming back to Palmer's Bar?
Yeah, and Palm Fest, we were at the stages of planning Palm Fest, and that, nothing this year. I was really trying to, last year we had 900 people over 2 days. And can you imagine what that feels like on a piece of property that small? It's going to be a long time until people are that comfortable again. But I'm not shooting for anything inside yet. I have no plans on that. But I do have a stage in my patio, and so first thing, I haven't even talked to these guys about it, but first number one thing I want to do is have the liquor pigs outdoors.
I was going to say. The liquor pigs, the front porch swinging liquor pigs should they're almost like part of the bar.
Yeah, they are.
It's like that mirror you've got behind the bar. They're like part of the bar.
Yep. No, that's the first band that, without a doubt, they're going to be the first band that plays at Palmer's once we open. They play every Friday generally in the inside here, and I want to ease into it with something like that, and then just maybe because I have to do amplified sound, it's going to cost me $160 to have a band outdoors, on top of PA, big,
sure,
that kind of stuff. So it's got to be worthwhile. And figured if there's shows I can charge for outdoors for a couple hours, just to help pay for all that stuff. But the liquor pigs are my number one priority, and then beyond that, I just don't know exactly because it's too tiny inside to really do anything amazing.
Yeah,
where it's worthwhile. But yeah, absolutely. And I'm a musician, obviously, and so that's a key priority for me. But first is just getting our family back here, all my friends and customers, and giving people their home back. And that's what I'm excited to with the ceiling project and with the bathrooms. It's like, here, now let's just enjoy this. Here's your building back, and let's have a beer and just be happy to see.
And here's your neighborhood bar back. One of the greatest neighborhood bars in Minnesota, Palmer's Bar. I've got the owner on the other side of the horn tonight, Tony Zaccardi. Mm-hmm. We're going to come back for one more set with Tony after these messages. All right, you are back at the fourth set of the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metza. My guest for the whole show tonight, I've really gotten to know over the years Mr. Tony Zaccardi. We're going to talk a little bit about his music. He owns Palmer's Bar. He was featured on CNBC, CNN, a couple of hits in Newsweek. Tony, before we get into your music, I've got to ask you, you got so many kudos on your appearance and how you presented yourself on the air. Have you ever thought about maybe getting into politics?
Not a chance. No way. Yeah. I just don't. A lot of responsibility. I already have enough responsibility owning Palmer's, but I don't. Who knows what skeletons are in there that I forgot about.
Yeah, I know.
I don't want to be vetted.
Yes, those background checks would be tough on all of us. Although we know we have a great mutual love and friendship with the man I call the mayor of Northeast Minneapolis, Pat Dwyer, who owns Grumpy's Bar, where I met you. Tell us a little bit about Tony Zaccardi, how you got involved with music.
Well, it's a funny story. It's a simple one, but probably the same way a lot of kids did in that era. We would get off of school, my buddy Scott and I, in about the fifth grade, which would be 87 or so, maybe 89. And we do concerts to Kiss Alive 2 on vinyls before CDs. And we put on Kiss Alive, put a chair in front of the door so his older brothers wouldn't come in and make fun of us. And then we would wear tennis rackets and do concerts. That was, you want to do concerts today? Yep. And then he got a guitar from his dad, and then I got a guitar for my 30th or 13th birthday, which was 30 years ago, just a few days back. June 13th was my 43rd birthday. And so I've been playing bass for 30 years. I've been a bass player this whole time. I own a guitar or two, but I've never been like a field guitar player that Styles playing. I've just always been a bass player because I was Gene Simmons for the concerts. And so that's where I've been in lots of different bands over the years, and kind of just stuck with it. A lot of the kids that I played with in high school, they've kind of given up that. I just can't stop. I've it's been my love. I've gotten to tour, not as much as I wish I could have, but I've been around the country a handful of times for sure with Romantica. Been to Europe with Romantica, and so they've gotten some chances that a lot of people didn't get. So I'm pretty humbled and honored that way. It's been a blast.
Well, this is be a great time to ask you the question because I've done 3 live streams outdoors all 3 times with my partner Sonny Earl. What do you feel as a musician, as a bar owner, and as a guy that's seen probably hundreds of shows like me over the years? What do you think is the future of live music here in the next 2 to 5 years?
I think we're going to see a lot more outdoor things. I personally am not. Eleganza did a live stream here since we've been closed. We did it live from Palmer's. And actually, it was during a festival, so there was like 400 or 500 people watching. But I've not watched hardly any of these live streams that people are doing right away. I just can't get into it. I need it live in front of me. I need subwoofer. I need bass drums hit me in the face and sweaty, people and rock and roll. So, I think within 2 years we're back to normal. I hope sooner, of course, for the sake of a lot of music venues all over this country that I love.
Right.
But I think we're going to see smaller crowds. Maybe more, just maybe more heartfelt special shows. 50 people and Dave Simmons, who I'm not, I don't know him that well, but like somebody like, hey, you want to see something cool, but there's only 30 of us,
Right.
And more, maybe a little pricier, but you get a special opportunity to do something, see something that no one has ever seen. Come see us play 10 song.
Well, you and I both know as musicians that played hundreds of shows, we've been giving it away for years.
Right.
How many shows have you played? How many shows that, I played on the West Bank hundreds of times. I don't think anybody ever paid a cover charge for any of those gigs.
Exposure. This is for exposure. Oh, yeah. I've, there's stories of opening sold out shows at the main room, which I love, of course. Opening for a national act, and there's, hey, you get $50. And then you see them with the headliner got paid. It's like, wow. It costs me more to get here.
Yeah, right.
As a musician, when you're paying, your bar tab is more than you get paid.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not even power drinking. You're social drinking. So I'm being a bar owner, that's a curse and a blessing because I know what I want as a musician, but now I know what it costs. What do you do? So
it's funny. I did 9 years with Willie Walker and then Sonny Earl at Shaw's Bar, and they're very generous with their alcohol and their food. And I like to drink Christian Brothers. So this live show we did the other night at my buddy John Paponi's place out at this beautiful little cabin in Plymouth. Mike was there. And I said, Mike, you must be saving some money on Christian Brothers, which was my drink of choice. And he goes, He goes, the minute they shut it down, he goes, I sold all my stock and Sonny Girl, my harp player. So that's insider trading, Mike. Say we got go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, go ahead.
No, I said, we've got tomorrow is Father's Day. We've got about a minute left. You've got your lovely daughter, Sophia. How did she do selling Girl Scout cookies this year? Because I know she's been rocking it for the last few years.
No question is, how did I do selling Girl Scout cookies? What are you talking about? No, I mean, a majority of it was down on the West Bank. But I brought her over to the Nomad, or Part Wolf, during a soccer game. She got to set up a booth there. We set up a booth on the Parkway by our house. So she got some good time in, but I generally sell all of her Girl Scouts. Dad brings them to work. Somebody's probably, late night, I need a snack. You know what I mean?
Right,
and,
right.
I need the munchies. So, no, I sold a lot of them for her. She did great this year, but it ended, way sooner than it could have.
Right.
Or, supposed to. So that kind of put a damper on the main Girl Scout selling season this year. She got to do the store once, and then they just pulled everything. So just give us the money that you have, and that was that.
Well, you give her my best. Tony Zaccardi, thanks so much for speaking with us tonight on the Wall of Power Radio Hour. And best of luck when Palmer's Bar opens up, one of the oldest saloons and coolest saloons in the Twin Cities, located right in the heart of the West Bank on Cedar Avenue, just about a block south of Riverside. Tony, best of luck with everything, man, and I look forward to seeing you soon, my brother.
Well, thank you, Paul. Thanks, brother. Be well.
All right, and here's a tune Tony played on with the band Romantica, Beatles tune called Something.
Something in the way she moves attracts me like no other lover. And something in the way she woos me. I don't want to leave her now. You know I believe in her. Somewhere in her smile she knows that I don't need.
Thanks for listening to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This show was produced by Paul Metza, engineered by the great Pat Lilia, recorded in the basement of AM 950 Studios in Eden Prairie, which is neither Eden nor a prairie. We'd like to thank our guest, Tony Zaccardi. It was just a really wonderful interview with that man. If you'd like to support the show, go to paulmetza.com to find out my Venmo account and PayPal account. Everybody stay strong and positive out there. Happy Father's Day to all you fathers. And like my dad used to tell me, remember to be kind and make someone